You're listening to the Angry Marks Podcast Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Wrestling Nerdcast on the Angry Marks Podcast Network with your host, Will Huckabee and Mika Villas.
Welcome once again, ladies and gentlemen. It's Tuesday night. We're recording. I'm in the booth. It's time for the Wrestling Nerdcast. As usual, this is a fan-supported and crowdsourced podcast brought to you every week on the Angry Marks Podcast Network. Be sure to check out our Patreon at patreon.com/the Wrestling Nerdcast. If you like what we do, if you like that, you like the interviews you hear, and you like to have the cool guests that we have on, be sure to go there and help us support, help us keep the lights on here. As usual, I'm your AIWF World Heavyweight Champion, your World Wrestling Grand Prix Champion, your National Pro Syndicate Heavyweight Champion, the Disrespectful Intellectual, the Southern Gentleman, the National Icon and Reality TV Star, the Mid-Atlantic Bully, the Morning Star, the Incredible Hulk, Will Huckabee. And as usual, usually I would have my co-host, Mika Villas, with me, but she couldn't be on this week. She had some things she had to do, stuff outside of wrestling, I guess what we call the shoot life. So she couldn't be on tonight, which I guess she's really going to kick herself in the butt after tonight's guest, because I think that she would enjoy tonight's guest, but it's whatever. This past weekend, I had a great weekend. It was a lot of traveling, a lot of driving, but wasn't too horrible. Was down defending my national syndicate wrestling heavyweight championship on Friday down in Columbus, Georgia. Actually, Thursday I was in Bluefield, West Virginia for USA Championship Wrestling. Wrestled my good friend. They got bundles. If you guys, I'll tell you what, if you like old school 80s studio style wrestling, you should definitely check it out. They have like the studio taping wrestling. I enjoy it. It's something different that I've never done before. I'm really learning how to put together really competitive 6 and 8 minute matches for TV. So it's something that I haven't had a chance to do in my 12 years of wrestling, but I'm really enjoying that. Like I said, Friday I was in Columbus, Georgia, for National Syndicate Wrestling. And then Saturday was back up in West Virginia, for International Combat Sports, defending my AIWF World Heavyweight Champion against one Cauliflower Chase Brown. A lot of people may know him from PWX, Pro Wrestling Evo back in a couple of years ago. AML, he's in South Carolina and stuff. He's really big on the East Coast and stuff, especially in the Carolinas. I had a really good match with him. Got to hang out with my good buddy Cameron K, David Tita. The AIWF International Champion Keegan Brittle, and his lovely fiance Jasmine. Got to talk about wrestling in Australia and around the world. And I say right now, man, Keegan Brittle has been all over the United States. This dude just is from Australia and bought a ticket to America and has just been, living off of pro wrestling for the last several months, man, and just going to different training schools, CZW. I think he said in the upcoming months he's going up to Canada to train at Battle Arts Pro, but he's been, at CZW in LA, Texas, Florida, St. Louis, IWA Mid-South, the Carolinas. Like, he's been all over the place, man. So shouts out to Keegan and his lovely, awesome, funny fiance Jasmine. I had a great time chopping up and talking shop with them. So that was my weekend. Just a bunch of wrestling, being on the road, doing things, living wrestling. It's winding down. It's almost that time of the year where wrestling shows start taking time off because of football season and the weather and cold. And this is the time where I really like to get as many bookings as possible. So that way, beginning of the next year, I'm already, up to a good start. I already got shows lined up for the first 3-4 months of the year. For some strange reason, January is always a really bad month for me. I don't know why, but usually once I make it through the month of January, it's just off to the horses. But I like to end my year strong. So if you listen to this podcast, if you have a local podcast, if you listen to this podcast, you have a local wrestling company that you would like to see me at before the end of the year, tell me to hit me up in my DMs, man. Hit me up on Facebook or Twitter, or even on my Gmail, wahuckabee@gmail.com. Anyway, great show lined up for tonight. It's just me in the studio by myself. No Mika Villas. Yay. So after a word from our sponsors and stuff, we'll be back with tonight's guest. Do you like what you hear? Do you like hearing me and Mika go back and forth between ourselves and talking to some amazing guests from around the world of pro wrestling? Well, then be sure to check out our Patreon at patreon.com/The Wrestling Nerdcast. Donate everything from $7 and up. And as your donations go up, so do the prize packages. Everything from a follow on social media to joining our exclusive Wrestling Nerdcast Facebook group to being able to book your own podcast with a guest of your choice within reason, people. Because trust and believe, we're not getting Stone Cold or AJ Styles on this podcast. But once again, if you like us, please support us and spread the word. Thank you. Talk to you later. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, this is the Wrestling Nerdcast. I'm your host, the incredible Will Huckabee. So glad to have tonight's guest on. In the world of professional wrestling, today's professional wrestling, very rarely do you have a legitimate wrestling manager. A lot of times it's somebody's girlfriend or husband or wife, or it's a trainee, or it's just some fan who paid a bunch of money to be on the show. Very rarely do you get somebody who is a legitimate wrestler. I'm so glad because tonight's guest is, I consider him a throwback to the glory days of professional wrestling. I think that in a world of very few legitimate, really good professional wrestling managers, this gentleman stands out. He's up there with your Stokely Hathaways and your Tommy Thomases and your Jason Saints. This gentleman is legit, coming all the way from the not so great state of Florida. And we'll get into that about his interview and stuff. But coming from the great state of Florida, the gold standard himself, Dan the Bow Tie Guy. Dan, what's going on, man?
I'm a little verklempt there. That really was a wonderful introduction. Thank you so much. It means a lot to me to hear that from you. Thank you so much. I'm doing wonderful.
No problem. I feel like, people keep coming to this show and they always talk about how great the intros are. And I'm starting to wonder, like, do other podcasts just not do great intros? It's just like, hey, our next guest is Dan the Bow Tie Guy.
Well, I mean, I've had, I wasn't really done very many podcasts, I'll admit, but at the same time, also, you did put me in the same company as some very, very great men, and I really do appreciate that. That means a lot. So I'm just sitting there like, he's talking about somebody else. He's got to be talking about somebody else. Because then it's Stokely Hathaway? Wait, what?
Look, everybody starts from somewhere, and I'm telling you right now, man, I've watched your footage, talked to people that know you. One of your clients, Barrington Hughes, is a good friend of mine. And reputation, people, when you're good at something or great at something, your reputation travels, man, and you wouldn't be hitting the road and working the quality and caliber of shows that you are working on, that you're a part of, if you weren't good. That's not me, trying to blow smoke up your ass. That's just a common fact.
Well, I appreciate that very much, and that means a lot, and I'm very happy to be on the show. I'm a big fan of yours as well, so this is actually a nice little back and forth thing as well, so thank you very much.
Yes. Before we even get started on the actual interview part, the owner of the network, Stevie J, who actually runs and owns the AngryMarks podcast and network that we're a part of, shot me a message today because I guess he said that you are a Whovian, and he told me to tell you that bow ties are sexy. I have no idea what that means.
To be fair, I mean, listen, he's not wrong. He's not wrong. And, I have an assortment of bow ties as well, so I think I'm very well ready in that manner. We'll just put it that way and leave it there.
Now, I'm assuming that a Whovian is a fan of Doctor Who. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. I've been a fan of Doctor Who for, 8 years now. I was involved with a bunch of friends. When the series got revived, I started watching it because I was so curious. They kept talking about it, and it just became one of those things where I was already a huge fan of pro wrestling, and I just went, this is like pro wrestling in the sense of even when it's bad, it's freaking awesome.
Okay, so give me, because all I know about Doctor Who is that the guy's a time traveler and he uses like a phone booth, or I guess they call it the TARDIS.
Yes, but
the character. Hold on. I'm gonna tell you what I know, and you can help me out. I know it's one of those shows that's like the main character, Doctor Who, can change people. Like he technically never dies; he just gets reincarnated to a different person. I've heard stories that the doctor has become his own grandchild or his own grandfather, and that there was a huge whoop-de-doo on social media because I guess the newest doctor was a female. That's all I know. Help me out.
You're not wrong. I mean, that's pretty much a very good, real quick variation. The way I explained to it, I was speaking with my father about it this week. Think of it as monster of the week kind of thing. It's a 1,000-year-old alien who has the power to basically take the form of whatever he wants, and his body takes the form exactly not at will, but just in that one moment, he can say, this is what I'm going to look like. My body has decided this is what I look like. And it's usually human because, well, let's be fair, we have to. In fact, this started one day after John F. Kennedy was assassinated. That's how long this show has actually been running.
Really?
And, yeah, it's actually, it just celebrated a few years ago. It's 50th anniversary. So this show is very long running, and it started off as a children's show. Ironically enough, it has that little weird idea where it was having weird stories about aliens and fighting aliens and, saving the world, but also it told you little history lessons on the side, which was cool. And it just grew out of that. And like you just said, yes, he has the ability to change. Basically, when his body figures out that it's in danger, that, oh God, something's about to happen, I might die, it takes up all of its molecular structure and says, okay, I just need to change it. And it changes form. So it turns into a whole new person. And
So
yes, you're right. Unfortunately, the internet... Sorry?
Go ahead. I'm about to say, go ahead. I'll get to my statement later. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, and yes, unfortunately, the internet did have a little coronary because the next doctor is going to be a woman. The new show starts, I believe, at the beginning of next year. So I'm excited for that one.
So have you watched every episode of Doctor Who?
I watched every episode of what they call New Who. See, what had happened was the show was continued. It worked out completely fine. It worked until around the 90s, and it got canceled. And then it basically got somebody, I guess, in BBC, which is British Broadcasting Channel, they decided, hey, let's bring this back. And they brought it back in 2005, and that's about when people were saying, hey, you got to check out this Doctor Who thing. So I started watching it there.
So that's become a cult classic.
Oh, definitely. It really, it also became a big thing when the internet kind of took off as a wide range thing, because if you lived in the UK, you were a Doctor Who, like, it was basically part of your childhood. People tell me that Doctor Who was to them what Sesame Street was to us here in the United States.
Wow, I did not know that.
Like, it was just on, and everyone just was like, oh my God, of course we know who Doctor Who is. Of course we know. So, that was to them what it is to us. And, like, they don't even know what Sesame Street is over there. I've told people, I even have friends from Canada that I'm like, yeah, Sesame Street? What's a Sesame Street? I'm like, oh, you need a childhood.
Well, I guess they look at us the same way. It's like, what? You don't know who Doctor Who is? Like, everybody knows. But I'll tell you what, man. I don't know if Doctor Who is the only British show that you watch. I love a really good British series or a British comedy. It's something about the dry British wit that I just love. If you ever get a chance, there's a show with Idris Elba. He plays it. It's I guess it comes on Netflix. It's called Luther. And it's a really, really good show. You should check it out, man. There's another show called Pram. I like the BBC, the UK version of the hit Shameless. Me, myself, personally, I can't stand the American version of Shameless. I don't know. I think it's once you see the British version, the original version of something, you can't see the American bastardized version of it.
I kind of agree with you on that one because I'll give you a little side story on that one. My niece is I have this niece who's a huge, huge, huge fan of The Office. She's watched The Office on Netflix multiple times. And I mean, she could probably recite many, 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 many lines for you. And I keep telling her, I'm like, you need to watch the British version because that to me is the superior version, even though it didn't run nearly as long. And I constantly laugh at that. I'm like, no, that's so much funnier. Listening to Ricky Gervais, like, as basically the Michael Scott variation, it cracks me the hell up. And I laugh every time at that stuff. And she doesn't get it. And she thinks, now she thinks that I'm, snubbing it and that I will not watch The Office. But I still
like, you're a snob.
No, I still like the American version of it. think the British version is superior, and I prefer it.
Yes, exactly. Now, let's move on, because I think that people are like, I thought this was a wrestling podcast. No, ladies and gentlemen, this is a podcast featuring wrestlers. There we go. But back to your earlier statement, you said you have several bow ties. Before I even ask you how many, whatever, do you know how to tie a bow tie, or all these bow ties that you possess clip-on?
So when I first started basically using bow ties as a moniker, I didn't actually even know how to tie a regular tie. I would actually have this redone by a friend of mine. I would have it tied one time, and then I would constantly, have all of my ties tied up, and they'd be sitting in my closet. Well, after a while, those started to get undone, and then it became hard to go, please tie this real quick. And then after a while, I just went, this stinks. So then the bow ties came in, and of course, I can't even tie a regular tie. So I'm like, oh, that's like a complete other side of the brain. What am I talking? What am I going to do? So I started getting, pre-tied bow tie. Long story short on that, I just eventually just started going, if you watch enough YouTube stuff, eventually when they tell you the how-to stuff, eventually you can watch it several times on repeat, you will get it. So I just sat there and went, let me watch this bow tie thing. And I watched a video by Alton Brown telling us how to tie a bow tie, and he essentially said tying a bow tie is like tying a shoe, just you're in the shoe. And I thought, let me try it that way. And I thought, let me try it that way. And he's right. It is exactly like, just imagine you are actually from the perspective of the shoe instead of looking down.
Oh. See, like, as far as I totally understand the whole learning how to do stuff off of YouTube, because YouTube is my bestest friend. When it comes to like everything from making soap to metal casting to customizing sneakers, like I'm like making my own, starter logs and stuff out of junk mail, like building. My goal once I retire from wrestling is to build my own tiny house and basically go off the grid in like a mountain somewhere in like West Virginia or Kentucky or something. And all of the stuff that I've learned so far is from YouTube.
I feel like you're a big fan of primitive technology then.
Yes, I'm a huge fan.
That channel is my favorite. When you started talking about like metal casting and stuff, and I'm like, he must like that primitive technology channel, because that's like shit. Watching these people like make moats and stuff out of like dirt, I'm like, oh, I can go off the grid. Because yes, I agree with you 100%. Like one day, I joke with my friends all the time because they know how much I love skiing, even though it's weird. I can't deal with cold. I every time like it gets even close to like 50, 60 degrees, I'm like, nope, don't like it. I always joke that one day if I go off the grid, find me in Wall, South Dakota, because I know it's such a weird thing, and it would be the farthest thing from what anyone would ever assume from me.
I would never look for anybody in North Dakota. I've never met in 38 years, 6 years in the military, 12 years in professional wrestling. I've never met anybody who is from North Dakota. I've met one person from South Dakota, and that was it.
No, I said South Dakota. Wall, South Dakota.
Okay, yeah. I met one person from South Dakota. That's when I was in the military.
Okay. Yeah, that's always my go-to joke is if for some reason you can't find me, where's Dan? He is in Wall, South Dakota, because he has decided to start up a new persona and just a new life, and nope, I'm off the grid.
Off the grid. Like, no, Dan is gone. There's no more Dan. Yep. I'm going to have to move to North Dakota. I'm going to have to move to South Dakota with you. All right, so let's talk a little bit of wrestling. How long have you been in the business, and what made you decide to be a manager? Because, of course, a lot of times everybody wants to be the guy in the ring. Everybody wants to be the Stone Colds and the Rocks, the John Cenas and the Incredible and the Hulk Hogans. Very few people want to be Bobby Heenan or Lou Albino or Paul Ellering.
I feel you on that one, and it was honestly a little bit of a weird, like, layers of that. It became layers of deciding what I wanted to do. When I was a child, my brother, when we were growing up, my brother was shared a room with me. Anything my brother thought was cool, instantly cool, automatically. So hip-hop videos come on, oh yeah, Big Pun, heck yeah, let's watch this. So whatever he thought was cool, MTV was on, it was cool. Any random magic trick stuff was on, that gotta be cool. So one day, I'm trying to sleep, I got to go to school the next day. And all of a sudden I look over and TV is on. Can you just turn this off? I got to go to bed. Why is a clown fighting with a king? And that's where it got, and that's where it started. It just became one of those things where it was on all the time, so I watched it. And one day, actually, it's funny that we're talking about this today. No, we have today as the podcast day, because today, unfortunately, marks 19 years to the day my brother was involved in a car accident. He unfortunately lost his life with that. And I remember the day we had his funeral, I sat there and I had this weird thing where if you live in my house, if you're not there, like, at night, I can't sleep. If you're not home, I cannot sleep. So, like, my mom and dad might be going out. Nope, can't sleep till they're home. Got to make sure they're okay. So I was not sleeping very well. It was just terrible. And one day I'm just flipping to the channels, and they were showing this recap of a pay-per-view. And they showed Rikishi doing the splash off of the cage. I think it was a No Mercy, I want to say.
That's the one where he landed in like the back of that flatbed truck.
No. This one was just a regular cage, not Hell in a Cell. This one was just, I think it was him and Valerius, and he was just doing a splash into the ring.
I remember that match. Yes.
And I remember just thinking, holy crap, that's so cool. And I just remember thinking, like, waves of, like, memory just came back. So I'm like, this is exactly like when we were kids. And it was one of those things where it just clicked in me. And not trying to get any, spiritual or anything like that, because I don't know how your viewers feel or how anybody feels, but it was one of those things where I said to myself, this feels normal. I feel like everything is back to normal again. And that was it. And I have not missed wrestling since then. I was constantly looking for more wrestling. Like, if it was not on, I was upset. I remember one time watching, I forget what channel. I want to say it was Telemundo, but AAA was on. And I have it on full blast. I'm watching it, and my dad just walks in, looks at me, and goes, "What in the world are you watching, boy?" And I just said, "Wrestling." And he goes, "But it's in Spanish. You don't speak Spanish."
It doesn't matter.
And I just looked at him, and the best part was I looked at him without thinking, without even thinking. I just looked at him and said, "Suplex is bilingual."
Exactly.
And
wrestling is universal.
He's like, he just couldn't. He's like. All right, you're too much of a smart ass for me. I can't deal with that. So that became my thing. And more, I wanted to watch. I wanted to become a professional wrestler. And it started out, way back when I first started watching, way back in the 90s. And I was like, okay, I really want to do this. But, I wanted to be The Undertaker. I wanted to be Diesel. I wanted to be Kane. I wanted to be these big guys. And for anyone who decides to look me up afterwards or sees my picture on the website or anything, you'll notice that I am 5'7" and 100 pounds.
So the furthest thing from Kane or The Undertaker.
Yep, absolutely. I'm their polar opposites. I am like the absolute opposite of The Undertaker, and if I was smart enough, I would say it backwards. But no, nothing close to that. So then I started going, okay, well, maybe I can be Shawn Michaels or Bret Hart or someone like, smaller. And then I remembered, oh wait, they have something I definitely don't have. They have talent. So
well, they're also like 6 feet also.
Yeah, I was like, okay, maybe if I just know, okay, maybe I'm getting closer. I'm like 5'7". Maybe I can get to that. Okay, I can get there. And I tried, and then I started doing it. But then one day I remember watching TV and I saw Zach Gowen on television. And that was the moment I went, wait a minute. Okay, so I have, for anyone who wants to know, a thing called a spina bifida, which is essentially a hole in my spine. I was born with a hole in my spine. It is irreversible. It is something that I'm going to deal with for the rest of my life. So I kind of walk, I jokingly was told this during high school, that I walk like I'm in the lean back video from Fat Joe, like all the time. And so I just remember saying to myself, so wait a minute, this guy can do all that crazy stuff with one leg. I got 2 fucked legs. I think we're good here. I think I got an idea. So I thought about it, and the more and more I realized, like, no, that's still going to take a lot of taxing damage onto my body. So I thought, okay, maybe if I can do something, anything else, like camera work. So I started going to independent shows, helping out with camera work. Hey, let me do something that maybe help out with the ring a little bit, which whenever they would actually, not pay attention for 5 seconds and I just grab a beam or, grab a ring post or something. Like, let me help out, let me do something. And I started doing that. And then they started going, okay, help set out the chairs. Do that. Do concession. Do that. Okay, cool. And then one day somebody, a promoter down here said to me, hey, do you want to do commentary tonight? Absolutely, I'd love to. And I started doing commentary. I did that for about 3 years. And then finally, there was somebody had finally said, a promoter had finally said, you might actually be a pretty good manager. You ever think about training to do that? So I linked up with a few of my friends who were already wrestlers and Classic Chris Nelson, who is my official trainer, and I said, is there anything you can teach me? And he said, I'm putting you under my wing. Let's go. And I trained with him, and here we are.
It's so weird because, like I said, a lot of guys, when they first think about wrestling, everybody wants to be the wrestler. And they forget that there's so many other jobs that are involved with putting together a wrestling show. And but a lot of times when you tell a guy, listen, I'm going to tell you the truth. Most of the time, if you tell somebody, you can't even tell a guy that he doesn't have talent. And they're definitely not going to say, oh, I'm not athletic enough to be a wrestler. This is my dream. But you were actually, I guess you could say you were actually smart enough to realize that being an actual in-ring wrestler wasn't a thing for you and became a manager. When you first started, who were some of the managers that you would study?
I'm sorry, who was what?
Who were some of the managers in professional wrestling, whether it was in the WWE and WCW or even on the independents and stuff down in Florida? Who were some of the managers in wrestling that you would study?
Well, when I first started out, WWE, of course, by the time that I first started out, WWE managers was definitely not a thing. But down here in Florida, we had actually still going on very, very strong. We had Fabulous Frank, who's still doing a couple shows here and there. He is absolutely awesome and somebody that I pick his brain whenever I get a chance to. Snake Master Abuddin is another one. He's somebody that, is, for whatever reason, these people just decided, that I'm not too annoying. And they're like, hey, let's teach this kid something. And, Abuddin being from Championship Wrestling from Florida, he was somebody that I can, being behind Kevin Sullivan all those years ago, be like, oh man, this is definitely somebody that I should be listening to and following. And I've always appreciated that stuff. Then from there, it just started. Once my library of wrestling went out and I went, what else is around? And I just started finding other people and started, anybody else that I could just just buy tapes of and just read and watch videos and just go, okay, this is really cool. This is awesome. I like this. I like this. I like this. Awesome. And, once I realized that the best thing to do is just basically be yourself, it became even better because I was like, oh, all I have to do is just go out there and be me and just be annoying. Perfect. Awesome. Let's do this. Hello?
Oh, I'm sorry. I hit my mic by accident. Let's talk about something else because, of course, when people see you, they are like, oh, Dan the bow tie guy. But I know when I've seen you because I've worked for Craig Classic and I've worked for Vandal and stuff down there in Florida, and we've crossed paths. These ring jackets, man, every time I see a manager with a very different ring jacket, something other than a sports coat or whatever, I always ask them, like, hey, where did you get that from? Like, I'll never be able to wear it because they don't make jackets like that for guys, who are like 270 pounds. But I'm going to ask you, where do you get your ring jackets from, man?
Well, okay, so my first ring jacket, my very, very first match as a manager was actually just a regular sports coat. There was no frills, there was nothing extra. It was just something I had in there. And I said, okay, let's go. And I just ran out and did the match, and that was it. But then I started realizing, that this was going to become a thing, and I went, okay, no, I really want to do something different. And I've always looked at myself, modeled my fashion sense a little bit after, honestly, Doctor Who, like we spoke about a little earlier, and a little bit out of Richard Gere's character from Chicago, if anyone's ever seen that movie.
What?
It's
really?
Such a funny... It's such a because the character itself, he's very, high fashionista, but a smooth talking jackass. And I just okay. It was one of those things where you just look at this guy and go, okay, you look awesome, but I want to punch you in the face, but because of how awesome you look, you can't. So I started looking around and I thought to myself, okay, I can't just wear a regular blazer. I can't just wear a regular sports coat. So I looked online and I found this company out of Las Vegas that does essentially stage show performances. They do the costumes for people that are doing like the stage shows, like the Michael Jackson impersonators and stuff like that. They actually have an entire store devoted to Michael Jackson, like library of stuff. Like there's stuff from his bad time and stuff from all these different eras of Michael. And it's really cool. But they also had these sequined, crazy sports coats. So I went, bingo. And I saw it, and the coolest part about it was that it was actually custom tailored to you. So all you had to do was do your measurements real quick, plop it in, and boom, great. So my first jacket was exactly like that. And I had that thing for almost 2 years, I would say. And it was awesome, but it was so freaking heavy. It was, you talk about how terrible Florida is. Okay, let me just say, I always joke about like how much I love the state and how much I like it. No, it is too ungodly hot. It feels like you're swimming all the time. And now to add 5 extra pounds of just heavy material, and then on top of that, sequins on top of that. No, I was cooking. 9 times out of 10, I was dying. I remember one time being at a show one time, and I'm in this like area, and I'm in a hallway, this little hallway that's actually a stairwell, and I'm just sitting there and I'm talking to some people, and one of the wrestlers turns and looks around, sees me and goes, "Michael, you look like shit." And I thought, well, that's a nice thing to say to somebody you've not seen all day, not to realize that I have no color in my face yet. I've lost all color in my face because I'm so freaking sweating and I'm dying of, like, I'm about to have a heat stroke, essentially. So it was that bad. And that's when I realized, okay, you know what? This is not okay. By this point, the jacket is falling apart. The jacket is starting to fall apart. There's, pieces are falling. I didn't like it anymore. So, you know what? No, not okay. So I ended up going and I got somewhere else. I found another one that was a little bit lighter. It felt easier. I can take it off a lot faster. It was so much better for me. But I always told myself, if people could just, in wrestling, the whole joke that I feel a lot of fans try to say, or not even so much fans, but the naysayers, like, because they feel the perception of, oh, wrestling is fake. Oh, anybody can do that. And I always thought to myself, the one thing I never want to do is I never want to look like you could just grab something I'm wearing and you can do what I'm doing. Like, I already feel like I'm going to get judged being the handicapped kid doing that as make them think I'm a charity case. So I definitely don't want to look and go, oh yeah, I can just put your clothes on and walk around and be an asshole on around ringside. Yeah, easy. No.
But I would tell you what, man. Speaking of, you talking about you being a charity case and all that stuff, I don't think that. I tell a lot of people the only thing worse than an asshole is an asshole who's disabled or who's handicapped, because I feel like people who have the handicap stickers are the biggest assholes in the world, because it's like you already get the best parking at Walmart. Like, do you have to be so self-righteous about it as well?
It's inbred in us, because now we already have a hatred for everything. We're already miserable people because we just walk out and go, why? Why do I have to be like this? Why can't I just look normal? Why is all this got to be like? I hate everything. I hate all of you people. And then on top of that, Disney World took away our ability to go to the front of the line years ago. So screw that noise.
So let me ask you, so we had shows and stuff, and you with Barrington, Big Barrington, whatever, any of your other clients and stuff. Because I love the fact that you call them clients and not, your talent or your wrestlers or whatever. Like, I love how you keep it very professional, say my client. What's the worst running you've had in with a fan and stuff, man? Because I'm pretty sure there's a lot of fans, especially in Florida, who don't like being talked, have trash talked to them by you.
It's a very interesting thing, because fans will. I kind of can say that I've gotten lucky, because for every one moment where a fan thinks that they can just step up to me and go, oh, I can easily take them. Because I'll be honest, yeah, they probably could. I'm not exactly the most intimidating looking guy, and if you catch me off guard, sure, there might be a chance where you can get a good shot in. But I promise, if you do, you better make it count, because I have a cane and I will use it. And on top of that, if one of my clients just happens to see you touch me, oh, it's not gonna end well for you, boo-boo. Like, this is not a good thing. We had a match recently in Blueprint Pro Wrestling a couple of months ago, where it started out as a singles match and turned into a triple threat. And one of the guys in the triple threat thought it'd be a great idea to hit me with my cane. And he is now going to be #1 hit listed on Barrington Hughes' hit list, because I have I'm essentially the one person he will look out for the most. If it's not him,
I say Barrington's not a small guy, man. Like, why would you piss off somebody that's rolling with him? Like, Jesus. And that's something else. Go ahead.
It's the most insane thing. It's absolutely the most insane thing. You would think people would go, maybe I don't mess with this guy. Maybe he's a 450-pound black man who is already wearing the most ridiculous loud colors possible. Maybe that's somebody I shouldn't mess with. Like, why would no? What in God's name possesses anybody to? I've always joked that I think his opponents, when they find out, okay, I'm wrestling him today, they should just stand in the ring, wait for the bell to ring, ding, 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 get out of the ring, walk to the back. Save yourself. It's not going to end well.
No, but like I said, I know that the number one client that you have is Barrington Hughes and stuff. But who else do you represent in managing stuff?
Well, currently the gold standard right now consists of a few people. Barrington Hughes, obviously, being my very first client. We also have Nick Abrams. He is currently defending, as we speak, actually, he's currently defending the Real Pro Wrestling Coastal Championship in Fort Myers tonight. Unfortunately, I could not make it there, so he's going to be defending that successfully because I have all the faith and absolute abilities for him to succeed tonight. My other client is Centuria Cortez. He is a great talent. We knew him years and years ago. We would be training out of a school out of Fort Lauderdale, and we saw he was there, and we just said, hey, if you ever want to just jump in the car to a show or something, jump in. We'll ride together. And it just became one of those things where we just started riding together. And I said, let's just all work together, because I always joke and I say that there's a group of people we are essentially the island of misfit toys. Mm-hmm. We are that group of people. There was a long time where, believe it or not, guys like Barrington Hughes, guys like Centuria Cortez, guys like Nick Abrams, myself, we were not looked at and like, yeah, let's absolutely bring this guy on. Absolutely, we want this guy on all the shows. No, it was, no, we don't want that guy. Oh, no.
Trust me,
I can't work.
Trust me, I know the feeling, man. Like, I'm 265, 275, whatever, and I'm not one of those. I'm not a body guy whatsoever. I'm like a smaller version of Barrington. And there was a point where, like, with myself, it seemed like nobody wanted to book me in their shows, and I think that, and maybe you can attest to this. The more no's you hear, the bigger the chip on your shoulder it gets. And you're like, you know what, I'm going to make it. And in a couple of years, you're going to be begging me to be on your show. And when it happens, now I got to hit you with the petty tax.
I couldn't agree with you more. You're speaking to my heart, my friend. You were speaking to my heart. Oh, it feels so good. Because all the petty tax is so real. And yes, I agree. Like, there's those moments where I just say, I jokingly tell people, but it's a real thing. We, essentially myself, Barrington, Centuria, we were blackballed from South Florida wrestling. There were a lot of shows. We talk about the fact that there's so many shows in South Florida. Almost every other weekend there's another show. But we're looking at our schedules and we're going, we don't have anything. We're never getting booked, but yet there's constantly shows going on, but yet nobody's talking about us. And that became one of those things where it honestly was the best thing that has ever happened to us, because then we started saying, okay, you don't want us. That's fine. We're not gonna keep knocking on your door, because after a while you knock on the door and they're not answering, your hands are gonna start getting bloody. So why don't I just go and knock one time on this door? Oh, they're gonna let me in. Okay, cool. Oh, this person will let me in. So we started traveling around, and it became the best thing in the world. And you can attest to this, because, Huck, you are somebody who travels around a lot as well. Being somebody who can travel and do a lot of different shows, that becomes so much better for you, because you're no longer wrestling the one or two same people over and over and over and over.
I love it. People ask me all the time. They're like, hey, well, who do you work for in North Carolina? And I'm like, oh, well, I just work for, this one company. And I might do a spot show every once in a while in other places in North Carolina, but I'm never in North Carolina. What do you mean? I'm from North Carolina, but I don't wrestle in North Carolina. And like I tell these young guys, I'm like, your home state will never appreciate you until you go out the state and go to, like, you live in Florida. So until you go to, Georgia and Alabama and Texas and stuff, like and up to the Northeast, like you guys are doing, Until you do that part and they start seeing your name in other places, they don't appreciate you. But once they see all these other companies and all these other areas booking you, then all of a sudden they're like, oh man, hey, well, do you want to come work for us? Sure, but now my fee is this much. Well, man, you live right down the road. I don't care. That's my fee, man.
I agree, and it becomes one of those things where I got out of there so fast, and now it's getting to be. There was actually a really funny story. A few months back, we were sitting there talking with somebody, and we had mentioned in passing in this hallway at a show, we had mentioned the fact that thanks to schedule, we were talking about a show that was going to be happening in December that we're already looking forward to. And this was, by the way, I want to say April when this conversation happened. So we're already talking December. And the person looked and went, "You're already thinking about December?" And he goes, "Brother, I'm booked up till February. We're booked up till February." And it's like, it's one of those things where you got to keep busy. And like, I joke with my wife, like, we're constantly like, "Honey, I'm on the road. Like, do you have a show this weekend? When don't I? If I don't have a show, I'm going to try to look for something where I can work, because that's not okay with me." Like, the idea of like sitting home and like, no, that's not okay. Let's do something.
Well, now, like I said, now you and Barrington and Nick Abrams and stuff, you guys are out there. I remember you and Barrington were on that huge, what was it, Headboard Breaker World Tour, whatever it was. Like, you guys have some of the coolest, funniest hashtags and stuff. But now you guys are known all over the place. I've seen Barrington up in the Northeast and stuff and everywhere. So how is the response now when you walk to these locker rooms in Florida? How are you treated now?
It's a very interesting thing, because, now majority of our shows, it's a lot actually like you just said. Although it's unfortunately no longer a thing of like, oh, I don't really work very much in Florida. I still work a lot in Florida, but a lot of it is more, mid-Florida to upper Florida. So I'm more North Florida or Central Florida than anything, but I live in South Florida. And it's so funny because I look at these guys that are coming up, and thinking back to 6 years ago when I first started helping out doing stuff, before I ever touched a microphone, when I was just basically holding a video camera, I always said, like, I would see these guys and they're gone. Those people are no longer around in wrestling, because that was right before the independent scene boomed and started, picking up. So now those people, unfortunately, are gone. But I'm looking at these kids and I'm going, like, wow, this is awesome. And the talent that you're seeing now is amazing. And you're seeing all these kids from all these different schools. And I always joke that, when you walk into a locker room and you see these kids come in, you can sit there and you can tell who trained them because of their demeanor and how they walk in, and the way that they're professional and stuff like that. You go, oh, that's one of Team 3D's kids. Oh, that's one of, 2.0's kids. Oh, that's one of Rob Samoans. Oh, that's this one. Oh, that's awesome. And it just becomes one of those things where you're like, this is so cool. And being a part of these people. And now they're seeing myself going around, and they're seeing all, the best part about it is a lot of these people that I'm on the shows with, they're no longer asking like, oh, I'm good to see you're getting work, because they're 9 times out of 10 on the same shows that I'm on. The only show that I can't say that.
I'm about to say, I've seen them with guys like, for me, it went from guys like kind of looking down at me to now it's, hey, man, you think you can help me get booked on that show that you're working, such and such, or hey, who do I talk to in this state? What are the good companies to work for in that state? Oh, yeah, here's what you talk to. And as far as the younger guys,
I definitely feel you.
The younger talent, at least where I'm at and stuff, in the Mid-Atlantic where I'm at, a lot of the time, the young talent look at you differently. They look at other, I guess, quote-unquote vets, because they know, well, yeah, this guy's working the big shows in this state, but he's only working 2 shows a weekend. Wow. Hey, Huck, he's working a minimum of 4 shows in like 3 states every week. Hey, I want to get to that level.
It's quite funny, and he probably won't mind me telling this, but it's always very funny to me. Barrington Hughes, of course, for anyone who doesn't know, is a fixture on Major League Wrestling on beIN Sports every Friday night. Check your local listings, plug. And he's on there every week. But it's so funny to me that, the guys I talked about before who, when we first started coming around, they're no longer around, but they're still coming to shows and watching and stuff. And they'll sit there and, that's when they start going, hey, buddy, how do I, possibly get on? As if Barrington Hughes has that kind of, like, I can just get you, number one, first of all, this is the first conversation we've had in, like, forever. It's like you just said, you're the same person years ago that would make fun of me and say, like, oh, that person will never make it. But now hey, brother, what's going on? We've been best friends. Like, no, that's not how this works. That's not how any of this works.
Hey, can you give me can you put a good word for me?
Yeah, it becomes one of those things where, hey, man, can I get on MLW? And it's like, first, and I jokingly told, Barrington, I said, because, that's exactly how that works. That's why Barrington Hughes is the current MLW heavyweight champion, and I'm on the show every week because I'm his best friend, and I can get on that show all the time. Oh, wait, no, that's not what's going on, because it's not how it works.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
It's so funny.
You are a testament to the saying, guys like you, and this is one of the biggest compliments I can give anybody, is a living embodiment of the saying, shake everybody's hand when you walk in the door, because you don't know who that person is or where that person will be at in 5 years. And the person who you're talking shit to now is going to be the person whose ass you're going to have to kiss in a couple of years.
I agree. And a little more to what that is, to me, I've always been the person, and I'm sure this is something that you also feel as well, because I feel you and I kind of come from a little bit of an older school classic, even though you and I aren't the same age, and probably not from the same class. I feel like a different generation, because even though I wasn't brought up by that specifically, I was always listening to guys like a Rusty Brooks, like a Gangrel, like guys that were, way back when they were doing this stuff. I would just pick their ear and talk to them about stuff. So my whole philosophy when it comes to showing up at a show is I shake everybody's hands, because without that person there, no matter what, that show is not going to happen that way. Everybody in that room is intricate to that moment, whether it be from the person who put the ring together, to the person behind the bar, to the person taking the tickets, to the wrestlers, to the managers, to everybody in between. I always feel like if you're not there, this show does not go as smoothly as it does.
Exactly.
So I need you, and you need me, and we're going to work together, because we need to make some money. We need to work as a business. And it's also a little bit comes back also from how my father brought me up, which was, you treat the CEO the same exact way you treat the janitor.
Exactly. I make it a point to, and my girlfriend, she fusses at me all the time, and she says that I talk to everybody or whatever. And I do. It takes me, like, the show's over with, and it takes me again 30, 45 minutes to leave the building. Mainly because, I'm kind of BSing with the boys, whatever, talking to the promoter and the booker. But at the same time, like, I make sure I go around and I shake everybody's hand that had something to do with the show, from the ring crew to whoever's working concessions to the video people. If there's commentators, I want to talk to the commentators, the referees, everybody that had something to do with the show. I would at least shake their hand and say, hey, thank you for what you did. If it wasn't for what you did, I wouldn't be able to do what I do.
I agree, and that's always been my philosophy, and I'm kind of the same exact mold, because it takes me forever to get out of a show. Like, I'll never forget this past Saturday at Blueprint Pro Wrestling. We had a show, and I was actually just there just to support and just to watch. But I knew that if I didn't get out at a certain time, I would be there till 1 o'clock in the morning until they kicked us out. So I walked in and I made sure before the last match was actually in the ring, shake everybody's hand, hi, bye, good to see you. Okay, have a nice day. So that way, if I missed anybody, I felt bad, but I would, hit them up on Facebook, hey, I'm sorry I missed you. Otherwise, my wife would just yell at me and go, I'm so tired. She always jokingly says it, but whenever we show up to a show, the very first thing I do is I walk up to people. I almost just walk away from her, and she'll always say, oh, you're leaving me already. And I said, well, yes, I have to go say hi to people now. It's like clocking in to me. It's like when you walk into your everyday 9 to 5, you clock into a job, you have to go say hi to, your employees. Well, that's what I'm doing. I'm saying hi to the people that work with me.
Exactly. Well, look, I know that our time, man, Jesus Christ, I feel like we could sit here and talk all day about wrestling, man. But I know our time is running short. It's getting late. It's Tuesday. You know what I'm saying? So we'll go ahead and wrap this up. A couple of more questions, and then we'll go ahead and wrap this up. All right?
Yeah, no problem.
All right. So there's 3 questions we usually always ask our guests in the show. We're going to have to modify it, I guess, because you live in Florida. But you might know. But we'll find out. Anyway, all right, here we go. Gas station to stop at, if you had a choice. Would it be Sheetz? Wow, come on. What? Wow.
Oh, sorry. First of all, there is no Sheetz down here, so that's a thing, number one. And Wawa Wawa was a thing where for years it was actually only the closest thing to it was up in Orlando, which is a 4-hour drive from where I'm currently at. So it was one of those things where every once in a while I would hit it up and go, oh, my God, they have a great BLT. I'm so excited. But now there's one 3 blocks from my house. And I now have a joke with my wife where they have a pretzel there. If she wants to give me bad news, just give me the pretzel and say whatever you need to say. Did you run over my dog?
What about QTs, man? At least give me a QT.
No, actually, no.
No? Look, I tell you what. When you come up through Carolina, West Virginia, Virginia, Maryland, Pennsylvania. Maybe I think they have some in Ohio as well. Like you've got the first chance you get, you have to go to Sheetz. Okay, Sheetz is like Wawa, except for they have 24-hour breakfast. Way more choice.
Okay.
All right, question number 2.
I'm for it.
Yeah, but we've got to get you up here in Carolina, man, so you can go to a Sheetz. My feelings are hurt.
Oh, I'm excited. I'm excited. Yeah. I'll come up just to hang out with you and just eat Sheetz. I'm good. But let's do this.
Exactly. Yeah, bring you up 95. All right, so Waffle House, IHOP, or Denny?
Waffle House. And, it's one of those things where people will shit on it all the time. But you know what? At the end of the day, Waffle House is the thing that will save humanity. If we had a terrible hurricane down here about a year ago, and you knew things were in danger when Waffle House decided to shut its doors. When Waffle House shuts down, get out of town. Run. That is literally a thing by the CDC. If Waffle House shuts down, run.
Really?
Yeah, it's on their website. It's called the Waffle House Index. If they shut down, run.
You are lying.
I'm not kidding. You can look this up.
I'm going to make a note of that. The Waffle House Index. Hold on. I'm writing this down right now because I don't believe that this is an
I promise you. If it's not the CDC, it's the Weather Institute. It's somebody. But somebody says if Waffle Houses in your area are closed down, that is a sign of imminent danger. They only shut down in cases of extreme emergency and like zombie apocalypses and shit. Like it's bad.
Oh my God. Now see, I was gonna say I love Waffle House. Like for me, if I go to a Waffle House, it has to be like I have to almost feel like I'm gonna get mugged by either the cook or the waitress. You know what I'm saying? Like I want my waitress to be like either my waitress has to be really ghetto or super trailer park trashy, and the cook has to look like either he's on parole or he just got out of prison.
It's funny because there's actually an IHOP like a block away from my house that is actually full. And I'm not kidding. Every single employee is out of a halfway house from prison.
Oh,
and it's actually amazing because that is the most perfect service you will ever get. There is not one thing wrong with anything you order there because they're too afraid. They're like, I'm not going back. Fuck that noise.
Hold on. What IHOP is this? We're going to give them a shout out on our social media.
IHOP, for anyone who wants it, IHOP on University and Sheridan in Pembroke Pines, Florida. Please go check it out. It is amazing. You will never get one thing wrong with your order there. Every single time.
What's the University of Sheridan on where?
University and Sheridan in Hollywood, Florida. Or Pembroke Pines, Florida. I'm sorry.
You said what Pines?
Pembroke Pines. Pembroke.
All right.
I promise you, it'll be great. I promise you, if you come down, we'll take you there. It'll be great. Your service will be amazing, and like you wouldn't even notice, except for every once in a while, there's that one guy who's like scratching at the back of his head because he's still tweaking off of this shit.
Like even if it is horrible, I'm not going to talk shit to a bunch of people who just got out of prison and stuff. Man, I'm not talking.
Oh yeah, how's it go? Yeah, this waffle wasn't. Okay, we're good.
Yeah, it's like, hey, man, I was supposed to got cheese. What the fuck? He said, you know what? I don't even like cheese. I don't even know why I asked for cheese.
We're good, man. We're good. It's cool, man.
We're good. Don't even worry about it.
Why does he gotta talk shit? Like that's so that was rude. And then you just pass the buck, you pass the heat off somebody else.
Exactly. All right. Question number 3. What is your guilty pleasure song?
See, that changes to me all the time, but mostly it's musical. I always joke that, it drives Barrington Hughes crazy, but, like, if I'm in the group with, like, a bunch of, like, our old friends that are from the original days of wrestling, if they decide they want 1 or 2 matches or whatever, we're in there, all of a sudden Book of Mormon pops up, like, it's just all this crazy shit that, Avenue Q, anything that we just go, we're just dying of laughter in the car. And Barrington Hughes will just sit there and go, can we put on some Tech 9? Can we put some, like, strange music on, something cool? And meanwhile, it's like everybody's a little bit racist is playing. It's amazing.
See, I'm a huge fan of Hanson.
Oh, okay.
Not the wrestler, the 3 little white guys. And Bop. Between, like, Bop by Hanson and the Bubbly song by Kobe Calais. Like,
ooh, nice.
Those are my guilty pleasure songs. Like, people look at me weird, but, like, playing those songs puts a huge smile on my face. Anyway, all right, Dan, this is the part of the show where we purposely tell you to get your shit in. All right, so Go ahead and let all our fans and listeners become fans and listeners of you, and let them know where they can follow you at on all social media and what shows you got coming up. Okay,
well, you can follow me specifically at Dan the Bowtie Guy on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and I don't have a Snapchat anymore because I got rid of that because people started sending me weird shit. But you can follow me on all of my social media, Dan the Bowtie Guy. You can also follow the Gold Standard. We are on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook as well. Give us a like, check us out. As far as shows coming up, this weekend we have on Saturday, we have Warrior Breed Wrestling in Sunrise, Florida. That will be a good show. We are in a scramble match. Myself managing Santeria Cortez and Nick Abrams. Both are in the match. This is a winner take all, but I guarantee something's going to be good because, hey, we got to watch out for each other. And on Sunday, we will be heading up to the lovely Tampa, Florida for Tampa Bay Pro Wrestling at the Roundup. It's going to be a good show there. I'm looking forward to that one. We're going to see a 6-man tag as well. We're going to be teaming up with Muzzy. We're going to be taking on some very talented men there. Next Saturday, we are going to be back in Seminole, Florida for Full Throttle Pro Wrestling. I'm looking forward to that one. It's going to be a 4-way match for the number 1 contendership for their tag team championships, which is currently held by Rob Terry and Damos, and we owe them a butt whooping. So I'm looking forward to that one.
All right. Well, thank you for being a guest of the show, Dan. I'm about to hit up you and Barrington and stuff to help me get more bookings in the Florida area and stuff, man, especially for the fact that it's about to be winter time and I'm tired of driving up north. I'm like the birds, man. When the winter time comes, I don't want to wrestle in Jersey and New York, so I'm going to start trying to get those winter bookings in Florida. So I'm definitely going to hit you up with some advice on that stuff, man.
Oh, yeah, man, absolutely. We're always talking about, I mentioned the fact that I was going to be on the show and, mentioned that you were there and they're like, oh, man, Huck, hell yeah, we love that guy. So that's absolutely, I'm not blowing smoke up your ass because you wouldn't blow smoke up my ass. I'm telling you the truth. That is a thing. So I'm looking forward to it because, it's also a thing where I'll help you out, no problem with that, but you got to help me out because I want to get myself out in that Midwest area.
Oh, there you go, man. I got you. No problem, bro. So,
one hand wash the other, bro.
No problem, man. Thanks for being a guest on the show, man. I will hit you up later, all right?
Sounds like a good one. Thank you guys very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that was tonight's show. CW.
Yes.
That was our show, man. I know you was peeping in and out and stuff of the show, man.
Yeah.
What'd you think about our guest tonight?
It was pretty good. I gotta figure out how to hang up on him, but it was pretty good. Like his little icon's still just sitting here all blinking and stuff. Like,
Dan, are you still on the line?
Yeah, I'm here, man.
Oh, you can hang up.
All right, brother. Have a good one.
Have a good one. There he goes. I didn't know all that stuff about Dr. Who. But you know what? It felt good to have a show and not have to worry about Mika, cackling all in my ear trying to insult.
I should leave all this in when I send it to Stevie. I should just leave all this part in right here.
Oh, Jesus. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that's been tonight's show. I don't have Mika here, so she can tell you what she's doing or whatever. But this week, I'm taking it very easy. I will be spending the week with the kids. This Saturday, August 11th, I will be doing very, very few times do I do charity shows and benefit shows. Because I don't feel like all the money for benefit shows goes to the charity or the benefit. But this week, this is a show that if I don't do any show any benefit show throughout the year, I make sure that I'm always at this one. This is the Shane Smalls Rumble to Remember. It's being held in Kinston, North Carolina. This coming Saturday, they have the Shane Smalls Rumble, where the winner gets this really cool trophy. Shane Smalls was a very he's one of a friend of mine's son who's a huge wrestling fan, huge John Cena fan. So every year they have a show in remembrance of their son Shane. This year, I do believe that the proceeds for the show is going to help out a local Boy Scout troop. But I'm going to be there defending one of my several world titles. I haven't decided which one yet. I do believe I'm probably going to be defending the World Wrestling Grand Prix Championship. Anyway, actually, no, I think I might defend the AIWF World title because last year I defended the World Wrestling Grand Prix title. So I think this year I'll defend my AIWF title. But I'll be defending that. If you're anywhere close to Kinston, North Carolina, be sure to check it out. Come in, say hi, take a picture, grab a picture, et cetera, et cetera. If you can't make it there, contact Extreme Shock Wrestling, see how you can donate, or hit me up on my social media, and I could give you, I could direct you to where you can donate if you want to. With that being said, be sure to check out the Wrestling Nerdcast Patreon at patreon.com/The Wrestling Nerdcast. Follow us on Twitter at WNerdPod. Follow myself on Twitter at WA Huckabee, Instagram William Huckabee, Facebook William Huckabee. Follow my co-host who's not right here, but she's on like all the social media, Mika Villas, at Mika Villas on Twitter, Mika Villas on Facebook. I think that's the same as her Snapchat and Instagram. I don't know. She was all over the place, like some kind of way. Anyway, just hit up Mika Villas. Follow her on social media. You won't be disappointed. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, once again, on behalf of the Angry Marks Podcast Network, on behalf of my co-host who had to take some time off this week, on behalf of my producer, the one, the only CW, on behalf of all of our sponsors, Behavior Driven, Indie Customs, Pro Wrestling World, and my good friends at Off the Beaten Path, who just gave me some really cool merch I'll be rocking this week. This is the Wrestling Nerdcast. I am your AIWF World Heavyweight Champion, your World Wrestling Grand Prix Champion, your National Syndicate Wrestling Heavyweight Champion, the Disrespectful Intellectual, the Southern Gentleman, the Mid-Atlantic Bully, the Morning Star, the National Icon, and reality TV star, the Incredible Hulk, Will Huckabee, saying peace out and support indie wrestling.
You're listening to the Angry Marks Podcast Network.